and welcome back to another episode of ASCII Anything presented by Motion Consulting. I'm your host, Angel Leon, Motion's Director of Personnel, and we're glad that you're with us for this episode of ASCII Anything because today we're saying goodbye, adieu, adios to Season 8 of ASCII Anything. And after a wonderful season, we are coming to a close. But as always, we're bringing you the best clips that Brian could put together. Muster this man. This man's job is the best job in the world, and he does a great job at it because he puts together the best of the season. We've sort of called it Clipsmas, sort of, sporadically. I mean, we've used that term, but I feel like every year we give you the very best that we have for every season. So here we are once again. It's Clipsmas, not in July, but an actual Christmas. So to joining me to talk about this is producer Brian. Brian, how are you?
I'm good. Yes, it's Clipsmas time again. Again,
yes.
So we've used it's Clipsmas time again,
Yeah.
but it's Clipsmas time again. Again, I believe will be the episode title, unless I realize that I have also already used that. And then I'll think of something else. So
Hey,
check the title. You'll know if I'm right or not.
you can add a part deux in the end, and that
Yeah.
makes it fine because anything that ends with a French term, it's okay.
We could go full Sound of Music. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, good night.
Hey, there you go. I'm not gonna even try that. So I hope you enjoyed Brian. Giving us
If
a little.
I leave it in,
along.
I have ultimate control. We'll see how on or off key I was. If I feel like I was close to pitch, I'll leave it in.
You were getting there. You're fine. All right. So as I mentioned, we will be going through some of the best clips. We're going to kind of go chronologically throughout the years. So we're going to start off with the best and worst IT scenes in pop cultural. And I think this was one of my very favorite episodes to record this year because there is a lot of stuff in pop cultural that comes out and really is not the real thing. But I think the clip that we're about to hear kind of enhanced, for lack of a better term, it enhanced
the discussion.
With that, we're going to be listening to our friend Michael Boris in every, police procedural, any show like that you see somebody with a keyboard and they just start enhancing a picture. Yeah.
Bane of any photographer or video person's existence because everyone assumes this is something that can be done and can be done easily when it's not something that can even really be done with great difficulty. It's just not possible.
And it cannot just be done right the way you think, but the way they show it, which is with a keyboard.
Well, as we point out on Hell, anything can be accomplished from the command prompt.
Yes.
And you know why? Because mouses sliding and clicking don't play well on TV. They don't play well visually. The enhanced image is comparable to like, oh, he's using a silencer so no one can hear the gun.
Yeah.
In movies.
Yeah. And that's why we don't use mouses in movies. He's using a keyboard. Oh, wow. That must be, wow. Whereas if
you know what they're doing.
Yeah. Whereas if they were using a mouse, what is he going to do?
This person is clearly smarter and more accomplished than I. They're skipping the GUI completely. There's no graphic user interface for this mastermind. They are bending the computer to their will.
Yes.
And we're looking at this grainy, out of focus, long distance photo where they enhance and enhance and enhance and that corner over there and bring that in. And can you bring the brightness up over here and do that? And they get the eye color of the guy who's wearing sunglasses from the reflection of the passing car in the window of the bakery on the other side of the street. And they enhance further and get the fingerprints off the smudge on the windshield from the same guy. And it's like, okay, how many pixels does this guy's camera phone have? It's crazy.
1,000. I hate it because every time they say enhance, you hear the keyboard clack, 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 clack. And you're like, how are you enhancing a picture with a keyboard? Like, just
they're in the command window. They're in the command window. You can do anything from the command window.
you can't hear a mouse moving on television.
And with that, we're going to go to our second episode of the season, where we had a discussion on UX design, which was very interesting. I mean, we've had sort of discussed this in the past with some of our other consultants, but this time we kind of brought it to the forefront. And I really liked the discussion that we had. And Anwar made a really good point here in his discussion on UX design.
We're doing a best of, and yeah, we pulled stuff from the first 2 episodes. Strong start to the season. What can I say?
So as you see the progression of technology over the years, you see more stuff kind of become commonplace, where it's like those 3 lines in a menu system means that that is the menu. That's a hamburger menu. You see stuff moving away from just like, oh, a camera icon means it's a camera, and you start seeing more stylized stuff. If you look at like iOS back in the day to now, where it's like that skeuomorphism, where it's like, oh, back in the day, it had to look legitimately like a camera for people to understand it was a camera. And now people can kind of say, oh, I understand that connection. So what we try to do is we try to make that transition seamless. So we're trying to stay with those current trends. We're trying to make sure that we understand what people are seeing, what people are used to, making sure that we match that and testing it with users. So it's like saying, hey, let's try this out. Does this pass what you guys expect? Does this fail? How can we meet in that middle? How can we add accelerators so those users can use it faster, who do understand it, but not make it so advanced that it's like, yeah, you're going to have to take a 2-day training on this, or you're never going to understand it.
And from UX design, we went to the marketing services. Which marketing services? The Mosher marketing services, because for an episode, Brian brought his friends back, the Mosher marketing team, and we had a blast talking about what marketing is and really where it is right now in today's day and age, and how it can help your organization move forward. And we had a lot of fun recording that episode, Brian. I think it was probably, I always like getting together with you guys because we always do fun stuff. We had a lot of fun learning about all of you guys and learning about your experiences and what you guys had done before joining Mosher and after you joined Mosher.
Yeah, this was almost a precursor to the later, and which will be discussed, episode, our humble brag episode, because this was me low-key humble bragging about the awesome people I get to work with every day in Mosher's marketing department, really showcasing what a joy it is for me to come to work and interact with this team daily. Melinda, podcast mom, shout out to her, as the person who hired each and every one of us, I feel did a great job, and I really enjoy her no jerks policy. Everybody's great to work with, supremely talented, and we're really looking forward to continuing doing all this cool stuff for people, and additionally for outside companies, not just for Mosher, in the future.
We have a fully staffed team from you as a video person, audio person, and everything else that you do. And then we also have the graphic designers, and then we have a marketing specialist, if you will, and Tish. And then, of course, Melinda. But everybody brings in that little key component to a good recipe of good teamwork. And that, I think, is the key in all this, is just how everybody just meshes well together. I really am grateful to be a small part of that team through this podcast. So it was a lot of fun to record that episode.
Mosher is an IT consulting company, so we work with a lot of different types of businesses, right? We work with logistics companies, we work with healthcare companies of all different sizes too. We work with from very small companies. I mean, sometimes even 20 to 50 people, and we also work with very large companies, like enterprise level, thousands of employees across the country. These are all companies we work with. But we kind of started realizing and getting requests from some of our clients who were like, you guys do a really good job of your social media. You guys have a lot of stuff out there. You're always on all of these topics and all these areas. You're putting out great thought leadership content. Can you help us with that? Because we need help with that too. And so we kind of went, maybe.
Our delivery mechanisms are easier and more varied than they've ever been now with digital and social media. But it all comes back to, what is your idea? What's your message? And what's the idea behind it? And what's the idea to get it in front of the eyes and into the brains of the people that you want to hear it? And that's where we come in.
And coming back now, we're going to talk about an episode that also was probably one of my favorite episodes. I have a lot of favorite episodes this season, so I don't know. I'm biased, of course. But we're talking about David Brown on a podcast about managing and implementing meetings. And I think the discussion in that podcast about meetings, and I think I brought it up, or maybe it was David, how meetings have evolved through the years, and how, we've gone from these hour-long meetings to now we're going to just quick stand-up meetings that we do, and how even those, as quickly as they've become popular, they've also become very toxic because people still think that there's no need for that sometimes even those quick meetings should still be an email. So with David, we discuss just the role of meetings in business per se, and how it has evolved through the years, and where it's at right now, or where it might be leading to in the near future. So it was another episode that I had a lot of fun talking about, and seeing where the trends are and what meetings is for businesses alike.
Yeah, and the tips that he shared with, kind of evaluating, is this meeting necessary? And if it is necessary, if I go ahead and have it based on the people who are in the room, is it an effective use of the time? And is it worthy of the time to come to a decision, to make progress, make sure the people who need to be there are there. And if they're not there, there's no point to having the meeting in the first place. And there's also just a little bit of me being very self-satisfied with the title of that episode. So, this podcast could have been an email was one of my favorite titles of the season. So this is just me getting, taking advantage of the opportunity to say that title one more time, because I really liked it. I was very
it's
proud of that one.
You have a lot of very bright ideas when it comes to podcast titles, episode titles, and this was one of your top 1% of those. It was really good.
This is an all-timer for me, I feel.
Yeah. No, I agree. No doubt. This was a very good one.
And please keep some of these tips in mind, because I don't want to be in meetings that don't need to happen. Nobody does. I enjoy the people I work with. I'll hang out. You don't have to schedule a meeting with me to do that. Let's make better use of all of our times, and we can hang out because we want to.
We've had companies that have said, if you receive a meeting invitation without a desired outcome, you have permission to ignore the meeting invitation. It can be that revolutionary, as much because it helps someone prepare for coming to the meeting. Equally as important is because it requires the person calling the meeting to think through specifically why they're calling the meeting. And maybe in those moments, with the right culture, rethink, do I need to have this meeting? One of the strongest tools that facilitators and therefore leaders can use at any given time is time itself. Oh, we had this meeting, we never make a decision. Oh, we had this meeting, but we just go on and on and on. Oh, we had this meeting, but so-and-so just runs off with it. One of the greatest facilitator tools is, we're going to talk about this for 10 minutes. And at the end of 10 minutes, we're going to need to come to a decision. So I need you to keep and then you coach people. So I need you to keep your input specific and precise. I need us to make sure we're not noting these things down. I need to know that our desired outcome is a decision. And by the end of this meeting, we're going to come to a decision. So don't sit back, be honest, and let's get to this.
All right. So from that, we move on to, again, the marketing team on a roll, just visiting Ask Anything this year. We talked to the podcast mom, Melinda Louder, about guerrilla marketing, something that I kind of knew a little bit about, but I'm glad we got to talk to Melinda about, because she discussed it in depth and just brought a different perspective to what that is, at least for me. And I'm sure that to some of our listeners too, but you obviously have some experience with this too, being in marketing for as long as you have.
Yeah, I feel like guerrilla marketing is the kind of thing where people maybe don't have a real solid grasp on it. Be like, oh, yeah, I know it when I see it. So it was fun to kind of dig a little deeper into its origins, like where the name even came from, and just explore some more recent, like top of mind examples of things. And like it really is opportunity realized. Like if you have a chance and you don't take it, then you're going to wind up exactly where you've always been. This is a marketing guy saying, hey, give marketing a try.
You brought up the example of the Chicago hot dog. Was it you?
Yeah, the Wiener's Circle visit by Triumph the Insult Comic Dog from Conan O'Brien. No, that's not recent, because Conan hasn't been on TV for a while, but man, what an absolutely stellar example of just, you couldn't buy that kind of reach. I mean, you're talking millions of views on social media. You can't design something like that
Yeah.
with traditional marketing. You can try, but it'll feel forced. It will be transparent that you're like, oh, they're really trying. Like, and it just that it won't, if it doesn't ring true, if it doesn't come, if it's not authentic, people spot it. People sniff it out. They're better than ever at that. It's a very savvy world when it comes to marketing efforts now. People don't like realizing they're being sold to.
And I think
it's an icky feeling.
That is probably one of the best examples, because it organically just developed itself into a marketing strategy for that place. That, I mean, it was a comedy bit, but it still created a lot of buzz around the business. So
from the Wiener Circle side, no one in that video was doing anything different than they do every single day when people go in to get hot dogs at the Wiener Circle. Nobody was doing anything different. They were who they were. They did what they do. There was just a camera there and a guy with a dog hand puppet giving it back to them. And I watched it again after the episode, and I'm like, yeah, this is still just absolutely hilarious.
Traditional marketing can kind of be focused on just spending, right? Just putting ads on the internet, putting ads in any media you can think of, the radio, anything, and just, I'm going to do 10,000 ads over 6 months, and that's going to be it. Now, of course, you want to be sure that your ideal audience is listening to that network or that radio station, something like that. But it's kind of just a spray gun technique, and you just put it out there for traditional marketing.
They could not have bought that kind of reach with an advertising campaign.
Yep.
I'm sure writers for Conan came from Chicago, or like, oh, we got to send the insult dog to that restaurant, contacted them, and they were smart enough to say, yeah, come on in.
Yeah. What if they had said no? It was just, you got to recognize these opportunities when they come to, or reach out.
Yeah.
They could have reached out to them, and when they saw that dog and went, you guys need to come here. Like, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to say, if you have an idea like that, I'm crazy. I will reach out to anybody if I have a weird idea and be like, are you into this? Like, maybe it could benefit everybody.
Yeah. Not asking is the same as not having the idea to begin with. Okay.
Yeah.
If you get the no, fine, but you have to take the chance. You're like, we have this idea. Can we do it? No. All right. I'm going to tuck that away in a folder, and somebody else is going to have a similar situation, and I'm going to pull that out. And eventually somebody is going to be smart enough to let us do this thing.
Yeah.
And then they will reap the rewards, and they will deserve them.
From guerrilla marketing, we now go to an episode that was also a lot of fun to record, because we got to learn about some humble brags and some of our consultants. And we're going to listen to Mark, I believe, in this next clip, talk to us about a very interesting software project that he had for military aircraft pilots. When we were listening to it, I was just like blown away by everything that he was saying. I think it was one of the best things that I've ever heard in my life, just in general, just how they worked on it and all the stuff that they did for them. And I don't know, I'm still very in awe about it.
Yeah, it was very cool to learn just a little bit more about Mark's background and this project. And it's not like, it's never unlimited budget, unlimited time, unlimited things that are cool. Like that's a dream. But when there's a time crunch, or there's funding issues, or in his case, we have to replace all of these things, but we have the computing power and the memory available to run all of this stuff is less than the thumb drive that is currently sitting in your pocket. How do we make it work? That's where you really get to show what you can do.
Shout out also to some of our other folks that were there, starting with Tish, who played college basketball. It was very, very cool to hear all of these different things that people do. We also talked about Chris Exine, about his support for St. Baldrick's for 10 years. And for those of you who heard the episode, Chris's beard is coming along nicely.
Yeah, he is right in the middle. He's in a very impressive section of the growth cycle right now.
and this is kind of a common thing in the military, like you think military super high tech. There are some things that are, but when it comes to aircraft, a lot of aircraft are ones that have been out there for 40 or 50 years. And what the government is trying to do is eke another 10 out of it. So a lot of the tech is old, especially when you come to flight safety. Some of the stuff that we used was really like in the 1990s was like cutting edge, state of the art. But when I started working on it was in the 2000s. So like the thumb drive I had in my pocket had more memory than the entire aircraft.
And from our Mosher Humble Brags, we bring you another special episode for us. We had a life before data analytics episode. So it's sort of like a origin story for all these data analytics professionals and how they got their start in that field. So I believe, are going to listen to Tim Mack, who is our resident forestry individual. Tim has an interesting background.
Yeah, spent years in Idaho working for the Forestry Service, and then came to Indiana on a forestry gig. Like when I first started talking to him about it, being a history nerd, I was like, "Oh, Forestry Service in Indiana. Did you ever get to go into Constitution Grove?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I think I upped my stock with him a little bit, because not a lot of people are aware, like, that the replacement timbers for the USS Constitution, the oldest active warship in the US Navy's fleet, old Ironsides herself, the spare timber for her is grown in Indiana. And his origins from forestry, moving into IT meeting Ty, and just learning on the job and getting trained by Ty personally, and to up through today. It's a great story of just, being eager to learn and applying yourself. It's very cool.
Yeah, and pivoting to a different career it's not easy, right? It's not easy at any time in your life, in your professional career. And the fact that he already had a career started in forestry and just blend it right into data and what he does now today is speaks volumes. But we also had folks from other different backgrounds. We had folks that were teachers first and then became data analytics professional. We had somebody who was a Japanese translator too, that became a data analytics professional, and another one who was in the finance arena and came into data analytics. So a lot of cool stories in that podcast as well.
Most technical people don't like to talk a lot to other people. Get out of your shell and talk a lot to other people. It'll help you immensely, personally and professionally. The more you do it, the easier it gets. I know that sounds cliche, but that really, after you've done it 10 or 12 times, presentations in front of groups and things, you don't sweat it as much. You still are nervous about it, but you're not thinking of all the things that could go wrong. You're thinking of, okay, how do I address X, Y, and Z, instead of, wow, what was I thinking standing up in front of these people?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, there are people who are just kind of naturally comfortable in front of groups or speaking, but it is definitely a learnable skill, and one that anyone with practice can improve. And just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it.
All right. And from that, we're almost getting done here, but we first got to remind you of the things that you could have gotten this past Black Friday. The holidays are almost here. I'm hoping that you have done your holiday shopping so far. I know I have. I've got maybe a thing or two. My holidays are always, I think I've said this in the past, my wedding anniversary is 7 days before Christmas on the 18th. So my holiday shopping is always twofold, especially for my wife. So shout out, honey. We're celebrating our 16-year anniversary here in less than a week, basically a week from today. We're recording this on the 11th. So honey, if you hear this on the 18th, happy anniversary. So my holiday shopping is always, I try to do it early, so that way I can get holiday shopping and then anniversary shopping too ahead. So if you haven't done your Black Friday shopping, then you should go back to listen to our episode, because we are going to have Trees talk to us about a device that both she and I have, and that is a remarkable tablet. It's a writing tablet. I have it. I highly recommend it for those of you who want to step away from anything that has to do with internet, etc. I mean, it does connect to the internet, but its main focus is for you to write and concentrate on your tasks. I highly recommend it. I love mine. I use it all the time. I use it for everything, both personal and work. So I definitely recommend it. So we're going to listen to Trees here, but there's also a lot more items in there that you can take advantage of. I believe we had in the show notes some of the items that we mentioned in that episode. So if you go back to that episode, you can read those and you can familiarize yourself with those items.
The deals might not be quite as good as they were on
Right.
Black Friday, but I'm sure you can still find some items to cross off your list for some of the harder people to shop for, and still find some kind of deal on them.
Yeah.
Actually, and on hell, I don't know if I've told you this before. My great grandmother, my dad's grandmother, was born on Christmas Day.
Oh,
But Christmas Day 1895 was when she was born, and then she was married on Christmas Day 1913 on her 18th birthday.
oh, wow.
So I always imagined that my great grandfather was a man who really appreciated efficiency, because Christmas, birthday, wedding anniversary, bang, not close together, exact same day every
Yeah,
year.
that is hard to beat. I mean, you have the trifecta right there, the Holy Trinity.
Like, I don't have to remember nothing the whole rest of the year.
Yes, that's perfect. The man knew what he was doing. I do want to say though, my handwriting is doctor-like, so sometimes it has a hard time picking up what I'm putting down, but that's okay. I don't mind it at all.
Does it learn to recognize it? Because I'm also did he write this with a pencil by hand, or did he dip his elbow in ink and then just flail it up the screen? Is my style of handwriting.
It literally picks up what you dropped in there, but of course, there's gonna be some mistakes.
No, sometimes it is a guessing game. It's like, what did I try to say there? But I personally have been using it almost every day, whether it's for work, and you can have different folders so you can have them named differently, separate them from like your personal note taking and things like that. So it's definitely been something that I use professionally as well as just, for myself.
And from our Black Friday Gifts Extravaganza episode, we are now coming to the end of season 8, where we're going to highlight the power of agency, which was an episode that was another one of my favorites to record this season, because we brought in Jim McKean, who was a podcast. It was his first time doing our show. And we also brought back Marcus Reed, who you've heard from in the past. And this episode was really good. I really can't highlight it enough, because we talked about the power of agency, and as if you heard it, we had a nice discussion. We brought in the Chicago Bulls, the 90s Chicago Bulls of Phil Jackson. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, I definitely suggest you go back and listen to that episode, because it's a very powerful episode, and it talks about how individually we can make a change. We can help support ourselves and our teams, and then as a team, how we can do that by leaning on each other and basically doing the very best that we can. So Jim and Marcus brought their fastballs to this episode, and it was a wonderful episode to record.
Absolutely. Yeah, that one would definitely be like, that's not just a best of season 8, that's a best of end of statement. That's what I really do feel like that's one of our best episodes. That was a really fun discussion to observe and to participate in. I really enjoyed that one.
It contains both the ability and the belief that you can do and initiate your own actions, and that you can and do affect your environment.
It comes back to that really primitive psychology of the human being. Control over our environment, curiosity, and pattern seeking are two of the things that make us what we are as a species. When the organization and the leadership can facilitate that mindset that Jim just described. We talked about autonomy, mastery, and shared purpose. Autonomy is just agency granted. Mastery is agency generated. I've got more and more agency because I'm getting better and better at what I do. And shared purpose is really just manifests as agency exercised, agency in action. So it lives in the individual, but it's very crucial for leadership and organizations to be mindful of it and facilitate it.
Well, I couldn't help but think about and associate that with Phil Jackson, because that's what he used to do. He used to take these players. He knew he had one or two players that were ultimately the best players on the team, but he also knew that he needed to make the best player out of the 8th man on the team. Right. And so I kept thinking about that, just because when we look at teams, and everybody on a team has a role to play.
There is a clear shared vision that was provided by leadership. There's a clear understanding of the goals and the basic tactics, but there unexpected things are going to happen, and the agency to improvise in that moment is really important. If Phil Jackson had a team where nobody did anything unless he told them to do it,
right,
not only would that be a losing team, that wouldn't even be basketball. Right.
right.
Speaking of agency and owning your role, and to jump onto the Bulls analogy, how many times do you think Phil Jackson yelled at Dennis Rodman that he wasn't scoring enough points? Zero. It wasn't his job. He wasn't there to score. He was there for defense and to rebound. And he owned that role. It's like you talk about the person being the best at the one or two things that they're there to do. Absolutely. That was him.
Yeah.
And if he scored a couple of points, oh, hey, cool, I guess, whatever.
Congrats on the 2. Now get back to the other end.
If you start scoring 20 a game, we're going to have a conversation, because that's not what you're here to do.
And in the workplace, it's often in a team context. You're, as a team, making plays together, right? There's individuals doing things, but it's in a team context. That's the autonomy. You're getting better at it all the time. There's the mastery. And those things are happening because you're together. There's your shared purpose.
With that, we've come to the end of this show. Ask Anything will be back for a season 9 sometime in early 2025. It's been an honor and a pleasure to record these episodes with that man right there, Brian Gentrup. Everybody that's come through this season and really all through 2024 has been a wonderful time to record with you guys and just learn from all of you and learn a little bit more about each and every individual topic that we've talked about. It's been a blessing to record these episodes, and I'm really looking forward to 2025, where I feel like we're going to continue to up the ante.
Absolutely. We've moved into the video realm for the podcast. So now they're available audio through Buzzsprout and wherever you get your audio podcasts aggregated and fed out to you from. Or if you want to punish yourself endlessly by staring at my face for several minutes every week, check us out on the Mosier YouTube channel. That's where the video versions of the podcasts are being housed and broadcast. Take a look at those. And as always, we appreciate everybody who's taking the time out of their schedules and their lives to come and talk to us about their areas of expertise. And, we cannot thank them enough. It is so greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you for listening in to this week's edition of Ask Anything, presented by Motion Consulting. We hope you enjoyed listening to the best of episode of season 8. We will see you sometime early in 2025. So for producer Brian, I'm Angel Leon. So long, everybody.